For joining us today. Appreciate you being here. Today we're going to be talking with Alta Labs and monetization of your Wi-Fi networking. With us today is Tony Rasavong, who is Director of Business Development for Alta Labs, as well as Dallin Kaufman, who's Vice President of Business Development for Alta Labs. And I'm Dan Lorenz, I'm Director of Vendor Relations with CTIconnect, and I'll be moderating today. We're going to talk about monetizing your network in a minute, but just in case people in the audience are not familiar with Alta Labs, I'm going to ask Tony to give us a real brief overview of who Alta Labs is and the products that they make, and then we'll get into monetization in just a couple of minutes. So Tony, go ahead.
Appreciate it, Dan. I'll actually share my screen real quick here. You guys see my screen?
We've got it.
All right, sounds good. Again, thanks, Dan. Thanks, CTI team, for setting this up. So just a little bit about myself. I'll introduce myself, and I'll actually have Dallin introduce himself as well. But my name is Tony Rasavong, Director of Business Development, like Dan said. I've been in the industry for a very long time. I started with working with distributors, and then I was at Ubiquity for 9 years, and now I'm at Alta Labs as a director. So I help launch a lot of the platforms out there that you guys currently use in the market, but excited to show you guys what we bring to the table with Alta Labs. Dallin?
Yes, I'm Dallin Kaufman. I'm the VP of Business Development here at Alta Labs. Been here since we launched this project. Going back, I mean, it's about 5 years in total that we've kind of been working on this project, but we launched the market about 2 years ago. Before that, like Tony, I spent about 5 years working for Ubiquity Networks. Yeah, happy to be here today. Dan, before we jumped in though, was there something else that you wanted to cover from your side before we move forward with our presentation? I wasn't 100% sure.
I would just like to invite the audience to post any questions they have in the Q&A panel, and we'll answer them as we proceed.
But just to continue on with the introduction with our team, as Dallin mentioned, we started and founded in 2022, but we're led by industry professionals that have been around for a very long time. One of those guys is a guy by the name of Jeff Hansen. He's our CTO, but he was the unified lead for a number of years. Before that, he's been in the industry for over 20 years in the networking space. Our chief architect for our routing and switching line, Chris Buchler, he's the co-founder of PF Sense. A guy by the name of Ben Moore, he's our board member, owner as well at Alta Labs. He's one of the early guys at Ubiquity. He came on board here at Alta Labs, but he actually didn't start just with Alta Labs. He joined a company called Sound Vision Technologies, which started as our parent company. They're big in the Pro AV space. They make high-end speakers, amplifiers, and they have been around for about 24 years. And after that, and people knowing Ben and Jeff, people were looking for alternative solutions to help them navigate kind of the new era of networking products. And with them knowing Ben and Jeff, they were pushing Sound Vision Technologies to come out with their own networking platform. And once Jeff decided that he wanted to create his own product and brand, and Ben heard about it, they joined and created Alta Labs. And we've come a long ways in the last couple of years, launching our products and jumping into why people should choose Alta Labs and in our products. There's a lot of different things that we want to do based on what we've learned with our history and our experience in the market and what we want to do going forward with Alta Labs. So we understand there's a lot of products out there, but we want to make sure our product, there's no licensing fees, there's no software fees with our hardware or software. So anything that you see now with our cloud and our hardware that you purchase, you're going to get it for free. So there's no plans for the licensing part. We want to make sure support is huge. We have free unlimited support. Right now, it's Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 Mountain Standard Time, and we're looking to expand that as needed. But right now, it's awesome. Our products work right out of the gate, and there's not a lot of issues with the products. So The call volumes are pretty minimal, so if you call, you should get somebody to answer right away. Price to performance is huge. We want to make sure when you guys install our products, you guys are making money on the hardware as well as your installs as well. And then we want to make sure your margins are protected. We do have a MAP policy in place. So if you see anything online, it's usually, and it has to be listed at MSRP. So there's not undercutting, or guys can't go online to search for a lower price. So that you guys should be protected. And if you do see something that's lower in price, we'll jump on it right away. But we haven't had any issues with pricing in the last I would say at least a year. So we haven't had a lot of issues with pricing. Product reliability is huge. We want to make sure when we release the product, it's going to work right out of the gate. So we heavily test our software and hardware to make sure it works and works well, especially in this market. We're coming in as a new company. We wouldn't last a few weeks if a product gets released, used, and purchased, and people won't come back if it doesn't work. So with all the different options that they have, but we want to make sure, as I mentioned, the product works out of the gate, and then also have some new features that makes us different as well. And then we'll cover that here shortly. We are community focused, so if you have products that you guys want for us to come out with, or see there's a need in our portfolio, let us know. If there's a feature that you're looking for that we don't currently have, please let us know. But there's a lot of features, and especially hardware now that we've released, that have completed our ecosystem, that you can fully install our entire platform from start to finish on the networking space. But there's a couple gaps that we are currently working on that should be releasing end of the year, early part of next year as well, specifically on the outdoor space. Ease of use, that's probably one of the biggest thing that people like about us, is that the product is so easy to use and install, but you're also getting a feature-rich platform outside of that as well. So if you go to our controller, and we'll touch on our controller here shortly, it's so easy to manage, easy to use, that your life will be simpler as well. We did actually a comparison with some of our competitors, and the install time from start to finish on one access point was about a little over 3 minutes. Our longest competitor was like over 9.5 minutes. So but ease of use is huge with Alta Labs. And then lastly, we want to touch on is AltaPass. AltaPass is basically PPSK on steroids. You're able to do multiple things with AltaPass, tie that with a lot of different things that we have coming off with carrier offloading. And we'll touch on that here shortly as well. So with that, as I mentioned, we have an entire ecosystem of products you can install, from our 8-port, 16-port, 24-port, and recently released 48-port switches, to our access points. We have indoor access points, on-wall access points. We have fully IP54 rated outdoor access points, as well as fully IP68 outdoor access points. So you can install that fully exposed in the elements. So we really do have an entire ecosystem, as well as I mentioned earlier, the Route 10. It's a huge piece to our ecosystem, where it's $199 MSRP, and it's a full 10 gig router that you can install with PoE plus capability as well. So with that, I will pause and answer any questions, or if not, I'll have Dallin touch on some of those features that we have in our controller.
Yeah, remember, folks, you can use the Q&A panel at the bottom of your screen. Should be a button.
Do you want to pause, Dan, for questions, or should I jump in for now?
Yep, I'm not seeing any questions coming in, so why don't you go ahead, Dallin? Thanks.
Okay, awesome. Sounds good. And yeah, thanks, Tony.
Yep.
And thanks, Dan, for having us. So I'm going to share my screen now, Tony, and just talk a little bit about our management platform, as this slide talks about. So I'll just give you guys a quick preview of kind of what that looks like and talk about a couple of unique features. The first thing that we want to talk about is this feature that Tony alluded to called Alta Pass. So this is our management controller, system right here. We have, as alluded to on the last slide, we also have an app, right? So you can download it on an iPhone or an Android phone, and manage everything from an app. This is the web version of our management system. But as Tony mentioned, we really focus heavily on ease of use and making sure our products are very easy to manage. So even if you don't have a lot of experience in networking, you can jump in here and kind of figure out what's going on and how to do things. You don't need, a high level of education and networking or anything else to be able to sort this out. One of the things that is a really good example of that is this feature that we call Alta Pass. So I'm going to come over here to the settings section of our management system, and open up one of our SSIDs. So this is a live site. It's actually our headquarters, Sound Vision headquarters, in St. George, Utah. And if I open up the Sound Vision SSID, you'll kind of get a feel for what Alta Pass is and what it can do. Typically, right, at any place of business, you can have 5 to 7 to 8 or more different SSIDs. Set up for different purposes, right? And for different user groups. So for example, you'll have your standard network, maybe for all your employees. You might have a guest network set up, right? Probably have an IoT network set up for, if you have CCTV cameras, right? Or a security system. That's probably on its own SSID with its own kind of policies and rules applied to that. And there could be many, many more, right? Any given use or group of users. What's very common in this space is to set up a different SSID for those different purposes. And you can still do that with Alta Labs, but what we do is we give you the ability to really clean up that space. So the problem with having too many different SSIDs in any given building is it actually creates a lot of RF congestion, which can impact the performance of the network, impact speeds, right? And so with AltaPass, you can see here, you have the ability to have a single SSID. This one's called Sound Vision, right? So if you walk into our headquarters, you on your phone, you're going to see that Sound Vision SSID broadcasting. And then what's different with Alta is you then have the ability to segment the network and user groups based on the password that they enter, as opposed to having to do different SSIDs for all of that. So for example, I've got my guest network set up right here. If I come into the network using this password, right, I'm going to have all of the rules that apply to the guest network applied to me. Same concept with an IoT network, right, for all the cameras or security system, standard network. So to give you a little bit more details here, I'm going to try and zoom in maybe a little bit here. Um, One of the first things that we did and that Jeff did when building this feature is he created these pre-configured network types. So you've got a guest network, internet only, IoT, large, and a standard network. Normally, and I'll take the IoT network type as an example, right? If with another vendor, if you're going to set up an IoT network, it would typically take a lot of time to the idea with an IoT network is you want to isolate or sandbox those devices in the network so they can't roam around and have access to everything. And that would normally take a lot of time as well as experience with VLAN configurations and isolation. With us, again, you just have the ability from a drop-down menu to create an IoT network, or any of these other network types. So how that works in practice, right? You can see all of these different passwords that have been set up right here. If I wanted to go in and add a bunch more passwords, right, I could just hit add password. You can add as many as you want. And then I can go in here and obviously assign, the password that I want. But in addition, I'm going to select, again, the network type that I want. So if I want this to be a guest network, for example, I can assign its own VLAN as well. We do a lot of client isolation in setting up these network types, but it's always a good idea, I think, to still have these on different VLANs as well. And then you can do download and upload rate restrictions by password. So if I want this password to have some restrictions on the speeds, right, that can occur with this password, I can do that here. I can set the max number of devices that I want to be able to connect to the network with that password. And then I can choose to bypass a number of different policies here, right? If I have a hotspot, so if it's a hotel or a restaurant, right, you want most of your users going through a hotspot, a splash page where they're then connecting to the network, but you don't want your employees to go through that every time. So rather than having to set up a separate SSID for your employees, you can just simply bypass hotspot, right here, and then they don't have to abide by that. Same concept with a schedule, right? So if I've set up a schedule for my home or for my work environment, I can, by user group, by password, determine who needs to abide by that schedule and who doesn't.
Hey,
Also,
Dallin, let me
yeah,
interject right here. We do have a question in the Q&A
sure.
panel asking about your SD-WAN capabilities. Do you have SD-WAN?
We do. Yeah, that's supported in Route 10. And yeah, that's something that we built in. Tony, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm trying to remember if that's been launched yet, or if we're still building that out. I'm trying to remember. I get
We
all the different features mixed up, to be
we are
honest.
we are still building it out, so it
Yeah,
should be soon.
that's right. Yeah, so it is in the works. I know it's one of our top priorities right now with our Route 10 feature to be able to get that out as quickly as we can. So on the roadmap, and will definitely be out soon. So yeah. Any other questions, Dan, while you have that?
Good for the moment.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, just to wrap up, AltaPass, again, similar idea with the filtering rules. One of the unique things about our products, actually, our access points, is that each individual access point has a DPI engine built into it. So you have the ability to do filtering or blocking, block certain content or applications, even with the purchase of a single access point. Whereas normally you would need a router or a firewall, right, to get access to that DPI engine. We do have a DPI engine built into our router, our Route 10 as well. But if you're just purchase a single access point, you'll have access to all those features. And then here with AltaPass, right, you can determine which users need to abide by that password and which ones don't need to worry about it or abide by the filtering rules. So this feature is definitely one of our most popular. We do have a patent on it. It's especially been applicable in like MDU environments. We have a great case study on our website that goes through a student housing complex in Notre Dame University. Previously, they were using 76 different SSIDs, one for each apartment building. Now they just have one SSID broadcasting throughout the whole building, right? And they can assign different students or different apartments their own password. And, some students are paying, for a premium package and, faster speeds. And so they have a, separate password associated with that. And then wherever they go in the building, right, those rules and those policies follow them, which is awesome, right? Previously, as soon as they left their apartment, they would disconnect from that network. So now I know there's a gym in this building, for example. If they go to the gym, they stay connected, and again, those rules and policies follow them wherever they go.
So, Dallin, I'm seeing a lot of enterprise type features here, which is great. And you seem very much oriented towards public Wi-Fi and large venue access. How do you do monetization here? How do we get into that?
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought that up. That's actually where I wanted to segment next. One, actually, there is, again, using AltaPass, there is some opportunities, for example, with this MDU environment, right? Like they're able to provide additional revenue opportunities based on kind of this password technology, right? So they can upsell their students to a more premium package, and then have that, those rules follow them those students follow them wherever they go. So that's provided additional revenue opportunities for this MDU. But one of the unique things that we wanted to talk about on this webinar is an additional monetization opportunity that we have focused on a lot, and something that's unique with Alta. So I'm going to switch back to the slides for just a second and introduce that concept. So this is a feature. Here, let me jump back into slideshow real quick. Yeah, so this is a feature that we call AltaBoost. I'm going to show you a video that kind of illustrates the concept of AltaBoost, but first, maybe just a little bit of background on it to kind of explain the concept and illustrate where the monetization opportunities lie. So if you look at, it's a little bit of a segue into a different industry, right? But the mobile carrier industry, right? So think about AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, right? All of those guys, they face some interesting obstacles right now in the marketplace. On one hand, right, data usage and rates just continue to skyrocket, right? They're growing really exponentially each year. But at the same time that those carriers are limited in the number of cell phone towers that they can build. They're extremely expensive, and obviously you can only build them in certain locations, right? And so there's a gap in coverage that exists in this space. And so one of the things that the carriers have been doing has been looking for ways to bridge that gap, right? And provide better coverage. I mean, you can be in the middle of any major city here in the US, right? And still experience uh, coverage issues, right? And connectivity issues, especially when you walk inside a building, right? That has thick walls, right? And your cell phone is still trying to connect to a cell phone tower outside. So one of the ways that carriers are solving that, and that we've been at the forefront of, is a concept called carrier offloading. And the idea is that these carriers can offload a lot of the traffic that is taxing on those cell phone towers onto local Wi-Fi networks. So as long as a Wi-Fi network has been properly set up for this, then a network can essentially act as an extension of AT&T coverage network, for example. And the way this will work in practice, and this video does a good job of illustrating it, is if I walk into a building, for example, that has a network that's been properly set up for this, my cell phone will automatically jump onto that network, almost as like I mean, it's a guest network essentially, right? So it's not like a repeater of a 5T or 5G or LTE network, but so it is Wi-Fi, but my phone will automatically jump on to that guest network without having to do anything, right? And recognize that as an extension of AT&T's additional coverage. And so then any phone call I take or streaming that I do or web browsing, right, or answering emails or texting, all of that's going to occur on that guest network as it's being offloaded onto that network. And then coming back to the monetization opportunity is for AT&T, T-Mobile in particular, those are at least two of the big supporters of this technology right now. Verizon is a little bit behind, but they will actually pay for every gigabyte of data that they can offload onto that network. For them, it frees things up, right, to get less congestion on those cell phone towers, right? Especially, maybe if there's like a large event occurring in an area, right, where there's normally not a lot of traffic, and then all of a sudden there's thousands of people there, right? Like that's really taxing on their coverage. So if they can offload that onto a Wi-Fi network, then it's beneficial for them, for the customer experience, and in many cases it's more affordable for them. So they'll
So
pay out essentially for those opportunities.
yeah,
Um,
so Dallin, this isn't the same as like turning on Wi-Fi calling when you're at home, right? It's different than that.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Dan. That's a common question we get, right? Isn't this just Wi-Fi calling? It's similar in terms of, right, you're using that Wi-Fi network, but with Wi-Fi calling, it's there in the name, right? It's limited to calling, right? That's really all you're able to get out of it. With carrier offloading, it's everything that's going on that person's phone or tablet, right? Whether they're streaming a Netflix or whether they're browsing the internet or texting or doing anything else, all of that is occurring in this carrier offloading situation as opposed to just the Wi-Fi calling. So I'm going to watch this two quick videos actually that talk about this concept a little bit more detail and illustrate the idea, as well as the next video will illustrate a case study that explains again the monetization opportunity for customers. But I'll play this. Hopefully the sound is still working.
Hey everyone, this is Chase Harrison, CEO of Alta Labs. I want to show you a real-world example of how AltaBoost is enhancing cell phone coverage without any additional costs or licensing fees. Here we have JD walking into our local Bmore complex. This facility is known for having very poor cell phone coverage for all carriers. Capable of hosting thousands of patrons on a busy tournament weekend, cell phone coverage is very important for this facility. From inside the basketball courts, before AltaBoost is enabled, as JD tries to place a call, you will notice it fails. Now, we will enable AltaBoost from the Alta Labs management platform. Within a matter of moments, you will notice that JD does not need to do anything from his side for his cell phone to recognize AltaBoost as an approved offload partner for his cell provider. Now, JD can try his call again and it completes successfully. He can also use this same connection to stream videos, check emails, and browse social media. AltaBoost can be used in any project of any size so long as you have correctly configured Alta Labs access points deployed. Thereafter, supported cell phones only need to be in range of the access points to have their coverage enhanced. If you have any questions on AltaBoost, we invite you to visit our knowledge base at help.alta.inc and search AltaBoost. Thank you.
Yeah, so AltaBoost specifically is kind of our version of this, right? To be upfront, right? It is possible to do carrier offloading with other vendors as well, but no one has made it as easy to do, as easy to enable. If you go to our management system, again, I'll jump back over here for just a second and show you how easy it is to enable this on any given site, right? So if you've set up our products at a restaurant or anywhere else, right? I can come to that site that I've created and hit Passpoint. So that's another name for this technology is Passpoint. If I hit add Passpoint, it gives me a couple options to either add AltaBoost or add XNet. And I can explain a little bit the XNet option here in a minute, but AltaBoost is basically our version that all you have to do is come in here and hit save. And that will automatically set up this specific network, right? That's been set up for carrier offloading. It's been pre-configured essentially, right? Whereas with other vendors, there's a lot of manual work that goes into actually enabling this technology, and it's complex and it's difficult. So no other vendor has made it more simple and as easy to set this up. And then also, no one really has made it as efficient as us. So to give you an idea, one of our major partners with this is a company called Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi and then also XNet, as was alluded to right here. You can add XNet. We'll be adding an add Wi-Fi button here shortly as well. But XNet and Wi-Fi are two of the partners. They basically sit as kind of that bridge between the carriers and end users, restaurants, hotels, or anybody that's using this technology to facilitate the payment opportunity. So,
Hey, Dallin.
yeah.
Yeah. So a new question in the Q&A. So I think you've answered it halfway. Is this like Passpoint? I think you just said that this is your implementation of Passpoint, correct?
Exactly.
And then John also asked what carriers are on this.
Yeah, good question. So the main carriers here in the US are AT&T, I think, is the biggest proponent of it. T-Mobile supports this in paid environments. So AT&T does it both unpaid as well as paid. And what I mean by that is that they're willing to pay for it, right? But they don't support it if they're not paying for it, if that makes sense. Whereas so that's T-Mobile. T-Mobile only supports this in paid environments. And to break that down a little bit more, carriers are very specific about which environments they want to enable this in typically. And they're interested primarily in commercial projects, not so much in residential projects where the same person's going to be connecting to the network over and over again, right? This is more built as kind of like a stopgap in their coverage, right? So they want people coming in and out and improving their experience. And so that's why it's primarily commercial focused. And that's where T-Mobile lies, right? So they'll pay for opportunities to have this implemented in commercial environments, whereas AT&T will support this anywhere. So a good example, coming back to MDU projects, right? Typically, in an MDU building, right, or a student housing complex, right? You also have people coming in and out, maybe that aren't connecting to the Wi-Fi, but it is technically residential, right? And so T-Mobile is not going to support that, whereas AT&T will support that unpaid carrier offloading opportunity, if that makes sense. And then Verizon, right, is the other major one. Verizon does not really support this at the moment, although there's lots of conversations that are going on with them and the expectation that they will eventually adopt this as well. There's a lot of other what are called like MVNOs as well, like Cricket Wireless, for example. I think FirstNet, I believe, is their name as well. FirstNet, I think, is the main carrier. I think they use AT&T's coverage, but they're the main carrier for like police stations and fire stations and things like that, right? They also support this. So a lot of the smaller players as well. Sprint, I believe, is too. But yeah, the major ones would be AT&T and T-Mobile. Um, any other questions, Dan, before on this before I keep going?
Just for me. So just to clarify, there is nothing that there's nothing that has to be configured on the handset. Like the user doesn't have to do anything to his phone to make this happen. This is all on the access point Wi-Fi network side, right?
Exactly. Yeah, the user really, again, probably doesn't even realize they're essentially jumping onto a guest network. They just see it, they're just going to see an extension of their mobile coverage. I mean, if they look at their phone, they're going to see the Wi-Fi bars enabled. But there's no action that they need to take in order to jump onto this network.
Yeah, they don't need to type in a password like you normally do when you have to connect to Wi-Fi.
Yep.
And the best part about this as well is that with combining that with AltaPass, you can rate limit as well. So you're not bogging down your network, or you can cap out how much you want to give to the carriers to offload too. So that's what makes AltaPass combining it with PassPoint special.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. So
Hey, Dale, another
Yeah.
question. Do deployments have to be registered at static locations, or can it be deployed in mobile scenarios, concerts, parades, etc.?
It's a good question, and the answer is yeah. It's great, I would say, for events. It doesn't have to be static. Um, so give you an example, there's a recent opportunity. This has popped up here in Utah and also in some other locations as well. But in Utah, it's really popular to have these corn mazes in the fall time. And I think elsewhere in the US as well, people will come and normally it's a rural area, right? It's a farm where it's not getting a lot of coverage, right? Or a lot of traffic. And then all of a sudden you're packing thousands of people in. And so there's this corn maze here in Utah that is using our products to take advantage of this carrier offloading opportunity, providing better experience for their customers, while as also getting some additional revenue as well. And then they're looking at expanding that to some other corn mazes that they operate in Chicago and elsewhere as well. But we've also had some other concerts utilize this technology as well. So great application there too. And to I guess maybe further distinguish a little bit between AltaBoost, XNet, and then Wi-Fi, as I mentioned. So AltaBoost, if you're enabling AltaBoost on a site, that is essentially the free version, or free is maybe not the right term. You're not, it's unpaid. So if it's on any site that you want to enable this just to provide better coverage, right, you would add AltaBoost. If you're interested in the additional revenue opportunities, that's where you would either want to add XNet or add Wi-Fi. And we can easily get you connected with each one. At XNet, we've created this easy button to do that. Similar concept, you would just hit save to do that, but then there's an additional step of basically registering with XNet, registering that site, the products there at that site, and then getting set up for payments. The main difference I would say between XNet and our partner Wi-Fi is XNet primarily operates off of like a crypto-based payment system where the payments are tied back to a cryptocurrency. I think they do pay out in cash, but again, the value of it is based on a cryptocurrency, which just isn't for everyone. It is for some people, but not for everyone. Wi-Fi is our partner that provides just straight cash opportunities. It's not based on a crypto currency. With that in mind, I actually just want to show you one website or a graphic that comes actually from Wi-Fi that they put together. This is kind of their statistics on nationwide on all the carrier offloading that's occurring. You can see, they've got different vendors that they're utilizing, with Alta Labs being the primary vendor that they're focused on for most of their carrier offloading projects. And the reason that for that is based off, you can see off this graph right here, shows how much more effective and efficient our products are at doing this carrier offloading than any other vendor. So this is basically illustrating the average amount of gigabytes of traffic that's being offloaded per access point. And you can see with our APs, it's 92.58, right, gigabytes, per AP, whereas the next closest one is Ruckus with 57, right, almost half. And down here to Meraki, right, which is 11.24. So Wi-Fi primarily pushes our products on these projects and these carrier offloading opportunities because no other vendor is as efficient in doing these carrier offloading. And as I mentioned before, as easy, right? It's just very difficult to enable this with other vendors, whereas we've been able to set this up with a click of a button. Lastly, I just wanted to show you another case study, and then I'll turn back over to Tony. Sorry to Tony, take some.
No, you're good.
So an exciting kind of case study that we did actually was at a Chick-fil-A location here in Utah that's enabled this as a kind of a test in a couple of their sites. This video does a good job of illustrating it, but just to give you an idea, for Chick-fil-A, they're earning anywhere from $300 to $400 per month per site that they've enabled this on. So not insignificant, right? I mean, that'll still cover some of their costs. Whereas normally, right, they're essentially taking their Wi-Fi and turning it into a revenue opportunity. But what's interesting for them is they're actually, and we found this to be the case with a lot of other venues as well, is that they're primarily interested in this as a way to provide a better service for their customers. These sites are definitely areas where there's poor coverage. And so, if someone's coming and sitting in that that long Chick-fil-A drive-through, and they're trying to, maybe they're deciding then to order on the app because the drive-through is so long. If the coverage is bad, right, they're not able to do that. And so with this carrier offloading opportunity, because of some of the outdoor APs that we've set up at the site, right, there is great coverage, everywhere on the site, and they're able to again provide a better service to their customers, a better experience, and make it easier for them to jump in their app and order and things like that. And that has been the primary motivation for Chick-fil-A and for, like I said, for many others. It's not really the revenue opportunity, which does open that revenue then up for potentially like an MSP. And I don't know if we have any MSPs on this call, but so essentially someone can get access to that if you're to that revenue opportunity. If you're the MSP managing that network for one of these end user sites, right, then maybe it makes sense for you guys to maintain that. And we've seen MSPs provide free equipment, right, to location in exchange for that revenue opportunity. Or if you're the end user, right, and you see this as an opportunity to offset some of your costs, right? Either way, it's definitely a great opportunity to provide both better service to your customers and potential revenue. So with that, we'll watch this quick 2-minute video, and then Tony, I'll turn the time back over to you from there. Let me go back into slideshow view real quick.
Hey guys, this is Chase Harrison, CEO of Alta Labs. We're outside of one of our local Chick-fil-A restaurants where we recently worked with the local operator to do a bunch of network infrastructure upgrades. In discussing the project with him, we presented the idea of doing carrier offload in each of his locations. Once he understood how it would enhance his customer experience, where his customers, his patrons, would be able to walk into each restaurant and without having to do anything would seamlessly roam onto a private, secure, and authorized network, which is authorized by their wireless carriers, which would provide great connectivity to browse social media, stream videos, and check emails while they ate, he was in. Each location has a combination of indoor and outdoor APs installed to assure maximum coverage around each property. The operator, in return for providing both the internet connection as well as the hardware, is now receiving hundreds of dollars per month per site in passive income. If you're interested in adding carrier offload to any of your projects, please email sales@alta.inc and a member of our sales team will be happy to answer questions you have. Thank you.
All right, Tony, you want to take it from here?
Yeah, sounds good. Is there any other questions on the carry off? Dan, I think you're muted.
Yeah. Before you move on, there is one more question. So I think if I understand the question correctly, can you introduce this and reuse existing hardware, or is it a total forklift upgrade? So I think what he's talking about is a Wi-Fi network he already manages, but not using Alta Labs hardware. Is there a way to do an overlay, or would he have to replace the APs?
Yeah, good question. And yeah, we'll be fully transparent here, right? Yeah, yes, there is, right? And that's where you would work with Wi-Fi. You know, we can connect you with Wi-Fi, our partner in this. They, as kind of you saw on that graph, right? There was other vendors that they're operating on. Those are typically, you know, situations where they have existing hardware. But what we would argue, and also what Wi-Fi is why they're such a strong proponent of ours, right, is if you want to get the maximum amount of carrier offloading on that site as possible, right? And then the max, you know, thus the max amount of revenue opportunity. Alta Labs is by far the most efficient, right? And that's where that graph was that I showed you. You know, on average, right? You know, per AP, we were offloading 99, gigabytes of traffic per AP, whereas the next closest one was 57. So what they've seen, what Wi-Fi has seen is there's definitely customers that just want to get this going with their existing equipment. They can help enable that, right? Because it is a little bit of a heavy lift to for some of these other vendors to get that set up. They don't have that easy button to just enable it with a click of a button. So there's more legwork that needs to go into it. But then what they've seen also in some cases is once guys have gotten started, they've seen some of that revenue and wanted to get more of it, and then transitioned over to to our products, right? And eventually swapped out for our APs instead. So yeah, to answer your question, it is definitely possible. But it's not gonna be as efficient and definitely won't be as easy than with our products.
I think that's probably the biggest thing is that it does get more complicated if you use others, because you won't have that easy button. From what we can see, there isn't anything out there in the market that has that easy button like us. And as you can see that when Dallin was walking you through it, it was just a click of a button, right? And you're able to pull that right up. And to tie that with even Alta Pass having to be able to rate limit as well, and that being so easy to do, the customer experience is going to be tremendously improved, as well as yours as well. So your experience of installing your first carrier offloading piece is going to be so much easier with Alta.
So for an operator who maybe isn't an MSP but wants to be an MSP, they get full management either through the cloud or through a locally based controller, right? So they can manage these access points no matter where they are. Turn on this carrier offloading feature and be able to get revenue back on the network they've deployed, right? And you talked about Chick-fil-A. I'm sure any other kind of retail would be a great target for this. What else? Dorm rooms, assisted living, like what other kinds of venues would be good targets for these folks?
Yeah, I mean, I think really any commercial environment is the ideal location for again looking at the paid opportunity, right? Anywhere where there's a lot of people coming and going, right? Like shopping malls or we've seen even small coffee shops in like San Francisco or elsewhere where there's just a lot of people coming and going, make some decent amounts of money. It doesn't have to be a huge site, but obviously the more people, the more high density it is, the more potential there is. We've seen amusement parks looking into this, ski resorts, so that there's really, I think, opportunities everywhere. When student coming back to like student housing, for example, or apartment buildings, what we've seen, right, is generally with the MDU kind of transition, is a lot of MDUs will have different commercial opportunities as well. Maybe in the basement, right, there's a restaurant or something like that. And so there might be our paid opportunities there. But one of the challenges we've seen with carriers is if they identify it as a residential project, then they may or may not be willing to pay for it. But either way, what's again unique about Alta is you have the ability to enable it, and at least provide the better coverage and the better experience for customers. And then we have to, like I said, if it's kind of in that gray zone between residential and commercial, that's where it is more sorted out on a case by case basis with the carriers that are involved.
Good to know. Good to know. Tony, any final comments? Have we covered everything, or is there more material that you needed to go through?
Yeah, I wanted to touch on the customer experience and then AltaPass a little bit more, and then one of the markets that that are kind of seeing an uptick because we have AltaPass available, that they can rate limit and also charge for more based on the password, is kind of the RV campground market or space. So we actually have a case study that we did with a WISP in southern Utah called InfoWest, and they're able to install Alta Labs products throughout their campus, and they're able to the customers, the patrons, are able to roam the entire place without having to disconnect as soon as they leave their RV pad. So I'll share that quick video right there, and then we should be good. So here it is.
Hey guys, Chase Harrison from Alta Labs. I'm coming at you from a brand new project in Cedar City, Utah. This is called the Willow Glen RV Resort, where we have partnered with InfoWest to deploy over 40 of our brand new AP6 Pro outdoor units across over 40 RV stalls.
My name's Aaron Hutchings. I manage IT services for InfoWest. With Alta Labs at Willow Glen, we are in cooperation using their outdoor AP6 Pro. It's a wonderful device that mounts very easily, nice and compact.
The owner, the Willow Glen RV Resort, wanted to make sure they had maximum Wi-Fi coverage throughout the entire park for every single one of their bays. And so what InfoWest has done is they have dropped fiber to every single one of these pedestals, and they've dropped a media converter that then plugs an RJ45 cable in our brand new AP6 Pro outdoor. One of the major attractions to Alta Labs for this RV park was the use of AltaPass. It's our patented technology that allows every single one of these RV owners to join just a single SSID with a unique password. Essentially, when they check in at the front desk, they'll get their unique password for the day or multiple days, depending on how long their stay is going to be. That'll allow them to take their network throughout the entire RV park.
A single password is great in a resort environment. It allows a customer to wander around the resort environment and experience all aspects of it, whether it be hiking, walking their dog. They can still listen to their music stream or check their email or do what they need to do on the go without being limited on their connectivity. So I can flood a resort with Wi-Fi and assure that customer that their customers will get the greatest experience wherever they're at in the resort. I feel confident and assured in that. So that's why I went with AltaWare is a comfort level that others just can't offer.
We're incredibly grateful for InfoWest and Willow Glen RV Resort for allowing Alta Labs to be a part of this project. If you'd like to learn more about this case study, please come over to our website at alta.inc/case-studies to learn more. Thank you.
I'll pause there. But yeah, I think the theme for kind of all the things that we've talked about is customer experience. It's been huge in for installers to install our products and having their customer experience improved simply by turning on carrier offloading or simply by having AltaPass in their back pocket as they're installing our products in their many environments out there. So, and that's basically all I have. But I want to thank you guys for coming to the webinar. And Dan has some opportunities for NFRs as well that he wanted to discuss too, right, Dan?
Yes, correct. Yeah, if you're not an Alta Labs customer already and you would like to try out those products, we've got a discounted kit that you can purchase to try out Alta Labs. You can deploy it. I mean, it's fully working stuff. You can deploy it. It's not limited in any way, and have a network deployed. You can see how carrier offload works and the AltaPass and all the other features that you get with this product. We've had very good reviews by our customers who've tested this product. So a lot of people who've tried it really like it, and we encourage all of you to contact your CTI sales rep and ask them for an NFR kit. Just looking at Q&A, I don't see any further questions. So I guess we're ready to wrap it here. If anybody has a last minute question here, please put it in. All right. I think we're good to end it here, guys. I want to thank you very much for spending the time with us, explaining how to do carrier offload and monetize a Wi-Fi network. And again, to our participants, if you would like more information, would like pricing, or to order an NFR kit, please contact your CTI sales rep. All right. Thanks very much. Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.